Well, Imam and member of West Berkshire Interfaith Group. How's your part of the world? Is it all functioning okay?
It's absolutely fine. Thank you very much. We are having Ramadan. It's just the last days, last stretch of Ramadan finishing. Looking forward to the Eid and Eid celebrations in a few days' time.
Yes, I mean, it is remarkable, isn't it? Because funny enough, I was speaking to my neighbour, and because we were just discussing it. I said, "How do you run your life, especially this time of the year? You know, winter time must be lovely when it's in about 6.5 hours."
It is, yes.
But so he was basically eating about 9:30, and then
18.5 hours.
Yeah. Because it's the water, it's the drinking.
It's the drinking, yeah.
Yeah, especially in that heat. How have you coped? Because it has been so hot.
Yeah, I had to tighten my belt up. I have lost a bit of weight this morning. So yeah, it's all right. Really, it's refreshing. You know, when you come out of it, the struggle, you have a sense of, you have a feeling of success, feeling of contentment. You feel lighter. You have gone through a big detox. You lose a bit of a weight, and when you come out of it, it's all jubilation, you know, and pleasure.
How much, mind you, you must be taking on, I mean, if nothing else, first thing, it must be liquid, mustn't it? I mean, you know, especially after those sort of temperatures of about 33, 34 degrees that we've had recently. I mean, people must be struggling, given those sort of temperatures.
Depends on really what your day looks like, how high or how heavy your work is, what kind of industry you're working in, and so on. But there are exceptions. You know, people who are ill, who are not well, and so on. They can catch up later in the winter season. And obviously, the lunar year also lags behind every year. It goes 10 days back. So it will come in the winter as well, and you'll have a luxury of a very small fast.
Yeah. So, oh boy. So how many days left of Ramadan now?
Probably 3 or 4.
3 or 4. Yeah. All right. Okay. So by the end of this week, things will sort of get back to normality.
Yeah.
And the belt will be loosened again. Yeah. So that's the thing, isn't it? So it is quite. I mean, what do you make of it? It is a remarkable thing, isn't it, Ramadan? I've always thought that. You know, that especially in this temperature. But I suppose when you think that the majority of Muslims are probably the Middle East, where it will be that's quite normal, really, isn't it? That sort of temperature, isn't it? Even hotter.
It is very hot there.
Yes.
I know. I remember, doing fasts over there in Qatar and Saudi and Pakistan. It is definitely harder, although the days are shorter. But it is harder. It is definitely very hard.
They are 12-hour days, aren't they, effectively, aren't they? So it does make it a little bit easier. But
I've always been fascinated by how it must be a very nice way to be connected as a family, as a community, because you're there to support each other through that kind of a difficult time, which you could probably interpret as a microcosm for other difficult times. What sort of age do you start the fasting?
You would start the fasting around 13 years of age, 14 years of age. But we sort of ease the children into the habit of doing the fasting. So my 10 years old has done about 7, 8 this time. He was very brave and he was really adamant, I want to do it. And my 15 years old, he has done complete 30 days. He is up to now, he's catching up. He's, doing full fasts. So that's the kind of age you do. And to be honest, when they see the atmosphere in the home and the family gatherings and people waking up at night and going to the mosque at sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, especially these are holidays as well in the schools.
It's a real event.
So it's a complete. We were in Hounslow, last Sunday. And a police guy is walking past by, seeing my child walking by, 10 years old child walking with me at 1 o'clock in the morning. He's like, "Good morning, guys."
So, yes, off to the mosque.
Off the mosque. That's it. Yeah,
because I mean, do you have any concerns about schooling and stuff like that? Because obviously you don't want them to feel faint at school and things like.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they change the patterns. They don't do PE and they settle down. And obviously, when they let their teachers know, they're comfortable doing it.
Yeah. And over the last 5 years, what have you noticed about the economy? Because a lot of people, I imagine, would have come to you and saying, the entrepreneurs, people who've got jobs, whatever, suddenly their lives have changed because the economy has changed. How have you guided them?
Well, I'm a telecoms consultant.
Yes.
So from telecoms perspective, obviously, the market has gone
been a boom time.
It's gone through a big, huge boom
Phubbing.
time, and then and then it's going through the depression, and then it's looking forward to some rise coming up later on in the shape of the long-term evolution, which is coming up in the telecom sector, really. But yes, the people that I work with, there is a decline there. There is a depression there. The people have been affected generally. But the problem is that it's not only one part of the society, one part of the economy that is affected. There are lots of layers and lots of areas of economy that multiplies the problem, and affects the people's life very badly. So the people do have a lot of effect, and there is a general concern.
And when you work in a sector like you do, which it changes just dramatically. I mean, when you think about 2008, when a lot of this happened, the phones we were using, I mean, they look like they just look like. It might as well be going back to the 1980s when we had bricks, because everything about your sector is changing so quickly. But that's indicative across whatever it is, the society at the moment. Everything moves in about, I think, funny enough, Theopothetus was saying, Industrial Revolution took 100 years, but what the change they saw in 100 years in Industrial Revolution, we're seeing in 2.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think we're, we haven't evolved it quickly enough to deal with that sort of change, have we? Do you think?
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah, the way the industry is moving, and the way the overnight changes are happening in the overall technology, in the developments, in the implementation of those researches that are coming up so fast and such a high pace, we have not caught up. We are probably not ready to sustain and to counter the effects of that very quick development. Yes. In terms of human development, in terms of skill development, in terms of the fallout of the change in the skill set that is happening across the industry, we have probably not caught up with that very quickly.
Yes, because as a final thought, all of the things that perhaps we grew up with and still sort of think, well, they're rock solid, we can rely on them. Actually, we can't rely on them.
Yeah.
Nothing anymore is... I mean, there's very few things we can sort of rely on, really. I mean, perhaps the Queen, I don't know. But there's very few things in life now, in society, where we can just say, right, they're always going to be there.
Yeah. No, they're there as springboards, perhaps,
yes.
But that's not quite as comforting, is it?
Well, no, exactly. Mind you, hopefully the BBC will always be there, which is is the way forward. Now, we'll talk through some of the more... other subjects that have caught our eye, including, of course, the phubbing, but other things from the papers as well. And on the subject of matters to do with phones, lots of people tweet on their phone. BBC Radio Berkshire, Rod Stewart, and She Makes Me Happy. So we're going to sort out the weather in just a moment, also do the sports. We're going to continue our news review with Julie Perigo, who is the chair of the Henley Partnership, and Shahzad Nadeem, Imam and member of the West Berkshire Interfaith Group. We were just having a little discussion about Life, the Universe and Twitter, weren't we there? You both Facebook, but you're not so good on the old tweets.
No, I just tend to get overwhelmed by them. I haven't quite worked out how you sift, and that's
because it
confuses me.
It just keeps coming at you, doesn't it? With Twitter, because everybody thinking aloud. And you're again another Facebooker, aren't you?
Yeah, doing both the things. I mean, I tried to be on the Twitter, but doing both the things at the same time, Facebook and Twitter, is overwhelming.
Yes.
It's far too much to handle.
And we're going to discuss your phone habits as well, if that's okay with you, in just a moment. We're going to do the travel and the weather very shortly. But have you ever phubbed? Have you been in a social situation and been on the phone?
I've tried not to, because I think it's really rude and it's unsettling to the people that are around you. So I've tried to have good manners on that, but it does seem to...
It's very tricky, isn't it?
Yeah.
Are you a phubber?
I'll tell you one thing interesting. Yeah, my iPhone stopped working a few days back.
Yes,
and it was a shock, obviously. But I found out that my life was a bit better off without my iPhone. Really. I am carrying a very old Nokia now, 10 years old Nokia, and I feel better without my iPhone.
Well, there you are, you see. Well, we'll discuss all of this. Let's get the latest on the roads.
Radio Berkshire.
Travel you trust.
As it happens.
Let's get the latest. Here's Julie Perigo, chair of the Henley Partnership, and Shahzad Nadeem, imam and member of the West Berkshire Interfaith Group. Both of you, we've been here nattering about life at the university. We mentioned just before the latest sports news there about whether or not you use social media. You're both Facebookers. Not so sure about Twitter. Obviously, you get involved, you love it, and it's a nice way to catch up with friends, perhaps some of the friends you haven't seen for years, and they live in all sorts of parts of the world. It's great for that sort of thing. But, of course, this week has been really highlighted by the misuse, especially of Twitter. Do you think, we've always had bullies, but they now have an even clever piece of kit they can now use called Twitter?
Absolutely. This is getting more and more sophisticated, really. I call it e-bullying, The issue is that when a normal person like me is bullied or has got something, very bad remarks coming from someone, and those are very, very bad, horrid, I would revert to, police, for example. The thing is that this is $1 billion industry, and the onus is on this industry to police it, rather than normal people going to police and using the normal course of action. They should invest in these sites to police it, to put the right barriers, to facilitate the people to approach them, and put the right barricades, put the processes so as to make sure that these sites are not used for bad purposes. And it's very simple. It's very easy, really. People's lives have been ruined because of some oddballs around, some odd people around, who had been playing around with their lives. And it's so easy. It could roll out of control so easily, and it could get spread. The rumors could get spread so easily that it would get out of control completely.
Yes.
But and our police probably not that much equipped in terms of the tackling with the social media. You got to have investments from these $1 billion industry itself to invest back into the safety of the people, rather than relying on the state public funding.
Yes, I was saying to you earlier, I was speaking to a cybersecurity expert. Actually, we were talking about e-crime and hacking and things. But when the internet and all things that we originally thought it would be for good, and I imagine Facebook. I mean, we know Facebook was a way of Mark Zuckerberg getting to know women, really. But it was with overall good intent, and I imagine Twitter was, but unfortunately it's misused so badly, isn't it? Yes, I mean, you have a little bit of telecoms experience, but I mean, how would Twitter, I think they have this sort of report abuse button, effectively. Is that a start? But all that does is say, I'm really not happy with this message.
No, it's not.
And it could also be, you could just say, I don't like that person, I'm just going to report them. And so it could also be abused, the abuse button.
There's always a starting point there, and it's a good start there. But to be honest, this is very sophisticated. It's actually a genius and a miracle of this century. And there's a lot of intelligence being put into bringing these ideas into the societies. You need to have a higher level of intelligence to cope up with the fallout of this social media. And by simple buttons, that's not going to go away. You need to have processes. You need to have standards. You need to have a lot of investment and working with communities and states to police it, to put the right processes in to make sure that the people's lives don't get affected negatively.
Yes, because the thing is that with the ability nowadays with smartphones, tablets, whatever it is, I mean, it's just increased the speed of social media, hasn't it? Because before we were all sitting at a computer doing our Facebook, status or whatever. Now it's you're on the street phubbing.
It's instantaneous, absolutely.
Yes. So people are doing it. So it just seems to be growing beyond the rate we can even cope with. Do you find that scary? I mean,
it is definitely scary. I mean, it is bubbling out of control. And we need to think strategically as to where it's all this is leading us to, where the whole society is moving to. And you need to be ahead of the game to cope up with the fallout and with the repercussions of the social media. Later on, we are hopeless and we are helpless, and we just watch it rolling out of control, and we can't do anything at all later on. It's better to put controls in place at the right time and nip it in the bud.
Yes, because obviously, funny enough, we were talking earlier on. I was speaking to the Reverend Ken Blanton, and we were saying that perhaps the scary thing is a few years down the line, what are we going to be like? Because we've forgotten how to talk. People are sitting with each other, but they're talking to other people via their thumbs. Things could just get a little bit worse as well. Now, we've had a look through the papers. There are various things going on in the big wide world. A couple of things that caught your eye. Shahzad, there was something you wanted to talk about which caught your eye. Was politics, wasn't it? There was...
Yeah, I mean, a news there, this Hassan Rouhani has taken over as the new president of Iran.
Yes.
He's known as a moderate person there, so looks like a glimmer of hope for the West. He has also pledged to end the isolation of Iran in the international situation. Unfortunately, Britain did not attend the inauguration ceremony, which has been criticized in Europe by some of the people there. That it is a very good window of opportunity for Britain to re-engage with Iran with the expected moderate government out there, rather than keeping aloof and on the sidelines and looking at the situation. So I think it brings a lot of hope going forward. And looks a positive development down there in the Middle East.
When you have countries, like Iran or North Korea is another example. I was watching pictures of North Korea marking the Korean War. Countries that become completely isolated. Because they do need the world, don't they? I mean, because if nothing else, you need to have that sort of sense of being able to communicate with other countries. If nothing else, do trade with them, because you might need the food, the parts, the bare necessities to create your industry. So you do have to be part of the world, don't you?
It's a global village. Yes. You cannot isolate. The countries can't isolate, and also you can't isolate the countries out completely, because in some way, shape, or form you are connected, and isolating the countries brings bigger problems to cope up with later. So it is very important to keep the communication channels open, definitely.
Yes. Where do you think, because Iran is in one of those moments where it is politically at a turning point. Diplomacy will always go on. Britain will speak to Iran at some stage. It may even be doing that right now, but it probably may not be doing it through official channels. But Britain does need Iran as much as probably Iran needs Britain, because, as you say, it is a global village.
It's all bilateral relations, really.
Yes.
And it's the thing is that Iran is not on its own. It's obviously a big chess game, political game around the world, and there are lobbies and big superpowers and blocs that are overtly or covertly working together for their own long-term political, social, economic benefits. Looking strategically at the long-term interests of their own countries, it is very important to keep in touch, to keep the communication channels open, rather than pushing the situations in terms of isolation, obviously, and pushing the situations to wars, for example, and severe repercussions, as for example happening in Syria and other parts of the world.
Yes, Syria is just a disaster happening in front of us. Nobody seems to quite know what to do next, but unfortunately it keeps going on. And another sort of country which is isolated is Zimbabwe, which again in the news. Robert Mugabe, surprise, won the election. And again, that's another country which is completely isolated. And the thing is that when Mugabe goes, what happens to Zimbabwe then? Because then we've got to start dealing with it in some way, shape or form. What do you think there?
It's a very good stance that Britain has taken and America has taken, that they have condemned, and they have said, yes, they have been rigging all around in Zimbabwe, and Mr. Mugabe's election has been rigged and it's not right, and they are supporting the opposition. It's very good. I support it. But in the same breath, I would say that it would have been good for Britain to also take the same hard line when the elections in Pakistan were rigged. Yes. Very, massive rigging happened in Pakistan, and they very cordially and very happily accepted Pakistan's new government. Also, John Kerry very recently said that the army in Egypt is bringing democracy back on track, which was again a very exceptional statement, really, to make in these exceptional circumstances. I believe that it's good.
A bit of a paradox there. The thing is that especially with the case of, say, Egypt and Turkey, there are genuinely huge swathes of the population that want a secular society, whereas obviously Morsi, part of the Brotherhood, he wanted to bring a bit more Muslimness to the country, didn't he? I mean, and that caused some concern, wasn't it? And he was. I mean, I think his big statement about basically giving himself lots of powers that didn't go down well, did it?
I know it didn't go down well with the opposition as well as the governments outside. But the main issue here is a process to elect a government democratically.
Yes.
Egypt coming back on course, going through a process of democratic elections which were not said and agreed upon as being rigged. Army accepted the election results as well, and the government was taking place. I think that they should have given a window of opportunity. I should have given some space for that democratically elected government, however good or bad the process was, for it to survive there and take forward.
Yes.
Rather than taking a hard line on this issue, because the army was not happy with that. Because the turmoil, things that are happening in Egypt, I really don't know which way it is heading to. The only way to bring everything back is elections, and that's what happened,
Yes.
and that's not accepted by army.
Yeah,
and other Western powers. I don't know why is that.
Yes, I think people have got to learn what democracy is, and I think that was all forgotten in the mixed, wasn't it? That actually democracy sometimes I mean, even I remember speaking to Alistair Campbell, and he was saying, well, when Tony Blair had that landslide in 1997, actually, when you look about the sort of percentage of votes that he only had 36% of the country. So basically, he was still minority, even though as an election victory, it was a landslide. The majority of the people didn't want him there.
Unfortunately, that's the only viable process we have to elect the governments.
Yes, so democracy doesn't always work, but it's the only thing that seems to be working at the moment.
10 o'clock.
Can't wait. Just a final thought, because I'm going to ask the three of you now, as a final question. Doctor Who, are you fans, Debbie?
I was when I was a kid, but I don't sort of follow it now.
No, because obviously there's a big day for the BBC today, announcing the new Doctor Who. Julie, are you a fan?
Well, actually, over the past couple of Doctor Who's, because it's sort of got cool again, hasn't
Yes.
it?
Has it? Or perhaps I should
I
tune
think
in.
so.
David Tennant was very good, wasn't he? And Matt's been very good as well. Yes,
exactly.
Yes,
So-
David
Been
Tennant
fantastic.
sort of brought it back into the public eye, I think. Even though I don't watch it, I knew David Tennant, was a very successful doctor. And that's kind of set them all rolling, hasn't it? And of course, all this media attention, what are they talking about? There's all these things going on in Egypt and everything, and everyone's saying, who do you think is going to be Doctor Who?
So, Shahzad, who do you think is going to be the new Doctor then?
Julie was telling me that she would rather have a female Doctor Who rather than a male.
Hey, they could really go. Tip the
It's
apple
the
cart.
first time I think it's even been mooted. So
I think Julie, if it hadn't Catherine Tate hadn't already been on, I would have said Catherine Tate would be the perfect one. But I think something like Julie Graham, the actress, was very good.
They've got to be a bit wacky, haven't they, to play the Doctor? You've got to be a little eccentric and have something a bit different.
My personal favourite would be Idris Elba from Luther, because I just think he'd be brilliant. But I think he's such a big Hollywood star now. I don't think he's actually got the time to do it, because I think it would be there. We won't perhaps ask names, but are you a Dalek, a Cyberman? I used to love the Yetis.
Yeah, me too. I was scared of the Daleks.
Well, the Yetis, mind you, the downside of Yetis is they lived in the London Underground. And for years, even when I grew up, I was a little bit worried about being at the end of a tunnel at Charing Cross Station, just in case a Yeti came out.
By the way, my husband would love to be Doctor Who, and I think he'd be a really good one, because, being a magician, he is eccentric. She who's lived with him for all these years knows.
Paul Daniels, eccentric shocker. I can't imagine that.
Yes.
Dear, oh dear. Anyway, I'll let you get away. Have a good one there, Debbie. So yes, because the big announcement is a little bit later on. You're not bothered about either way, are you, Shahzad?
Oh, yeah, I'm fine with that, really. I'll have to consult my children on that.
Oh, yeah. They'll definitely have an opinion. I'm sure they will, because, big announcement then today. It was happening on the BBC, and they'll have a chat with Matt Smith and the new Doctor, whoever the new Doctor may be. It will all be very exciting. And just finally, we've got about 60 seconds left. your Sunday plans. What have you got planned for Sunday?
We've got friends coming down from Birmingham, and we're going to go out on the river. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed that it's not going to be raining. What's the forecast?
Mainly dry, sunny spells, a few showers. So I think you're going to be all right. It's going to be warm, about 25, 77.
Oh, sounds
That's
nice.
not bad. You've got a day, well, it's about 9:30 when you can have something to drink and eat.
Yeah, relaxing day really, just to relax, chill out, have a good family time.
Can I ask just one of these questions? Has there ever been a moment when you've been at work and your tummy has rumbled over the years of Ramadan?
Tummy usually rumbles. Nothing to do with work.
Oh, really? All right. No, just because I suddenly thought, oh gosh. And what's the first thing? Is there something that you are really looking forward to eating?
To eating?
Yes. Just sort of, when you can freely eat it during the day, is there something that you just love that you haven't been able to eat for the last 30 days or so?
Probably a cup of tea, really, in the
Cup
morning.
of tea, really? It's just that, because when I gave up chocolate, I always knew, Lent, I would think, I always had to have a bag of chocolate buttons. I know for me, it was, I knew it was over then. So, lovely to meet you both. Thank you very much for coming in today. News review done there with Julie Perigo and Shahzad.